This is a Mitsubishi Challenger, but in some parts of the world called a Pajero Sport or a Mitsubishi Shogun from 2003. The central locking is broken, so that means that if I lock it from the passenger side, it locks the whole car and unlocks the whole car when you turn the key in the door. But from the driver's side, it only locks and unlocks the driver's side, so that's the problem. I've managed to fix the problem, but it's a really strange fix, and I couldn't find any information online about how to do that. So I'm recording this video in case somebody else has the same issue. So there was a video I found about Pajeros, but the way that the door lock works is different in a Pajero to this car. So yeah, but so this is the door lock. I can show you how to get that out, but this is how it works. So this cable is connected to the handle, which is in there somewhere. So you lift up and down the handle, and this thing moves up and down against the spring. And then this cable is connected to the key, where you turn the key in and out. This thing moves up and down. The way that I've fixed this problem is really weird, and I don't really understand why this fix has worked, but it has worked. But the way that I fixed it was to bend this little bit of metal back, which just feels like really wrong, because like if this bit of metal being down there was the problem, then why would Mitsubishi make it like that? So I think there's probably something I don't understand, but for whatever reason it seems to work. So now if I pull this up, which is like locking the car, then it's already in the lock position, but if I push it down, that unlocks the car. You can probably hear the locks going in and out on all the doors now. And if I pull it up, that locks the car. So it works without that in place. And the reason that I've done that to fix it is a little bit boring and complicated, but I'll explain. So, where's the screwdriver? Ah, here it is. So, I'll take the screw off, then it'll make a bit more sense. This screw's holding that little rotating thing on, and that bridges connections between the different connection points. So I'm just undoing that, put that down there. So this bit looks like that. So and this is meant to be bent down like that. So this turns like that when the lock gets turned, when the key turns in the lock. This bit goes from here to back to there, and the idea is that that's a little connection point just here. So that's in this position, that's bridging the connection between the first track, this one, and this track in the middle. So in that position, that makes a connection between there and there. And in this position, the idea is that this one isn't connected anymore, but instead this one is connected to this one, and then it plugs into this, and then some commands go back to the ECU through this connection, and that tells the computer what to do with all the other door locks. But the really weird thing that I found is that these two pins are just connected together with just a very low resistance of 50 ohms, measured that on the multimeter, and I don't think that should really be the case, because that means that when you put this in that position, or if you put it in the other position, it means that electrically nothing's changing. So the computer can't recognise when the key's in the lock position or the unlock position when you do this or when you do that. I hope this makes sense. It's a bit sort of convoluted, isn't it? But hence why, I tried cleaning out all the gunk to see if that is making a connection between these two, but it's not, and I can't see anything there that's making a connection between those points. So the way that I did it was just, hey, bend that to there, and then it seems to fix it for some reason. So that's what I'm going to do, and put it back together, and then I think it's going to work. I would say though, like, when you're taking this apart, it doesn't really come apart. It's not designed to come apart, so I had to just like cut through all of this and saw through it to get this off. So if you're doing that, just pay careful attention to where all these bits go, because you need to put this gear back in the right position inside here. And you can, if this pings out and you didn't mean it to, then you can kind of guess roughly where it will go by looking at all the gunk that's on there. And getting the door off was pretty easy, really, because on this there's just a few screws, one screw there, one screw there, there's a screw inside the door handle down there, and there's a screw just here inside that goes in there like that, and then there's a screw here and a screw down there, these two, and then it's just all push fits which will just snap off if you pry it open. Okay, putting this back together, I mentioned earlier that I had to cut this off because it doesn't really screw off, it's glued on from the factory. So I just had to go around sawing all of this, so just putting it back together now, the reverse of what I did before. This bit's kind of tricky to put back in the right place, but it's easy when you know how to do it. Like that half moon shape thing presses against these torsion springs, and that's what gives the key its sprung feeling, I think, when you move the key from one position to another. So sort of put it back like this so that the half moon locates up with this other half moon on here, like that. And then when this gear turns, you push against, it's quite hard to turn because you're pushing against the force of that torsion spring. So that's the way to put that back so it's in the right position. And then this goes on top of that. It's the centre of that gear goes on the top of this shafty thing, and then that gear locates with this, so that when this motor runs, that worm connects to this gear, that gear rotates, and then it turns this. So when somebody turns the key on the other door, on the other side, then the motor then drives this thingy, which locks and unlocks the door. So it works in both ways. So that goes back together like that, and then super glue it all back together. So I've glued this back together now. I tried super glue, but actually that wasn't really strong enough because this whole casing that I cut off moves a bit when the motor actuates, so I used some of this plastic weld stuff, which is dried as a really hard plastic. It's really good stuff, that. So I'm going to reassemble it, and then if you're looking to take all this off to start the job, just do the reverse of what I'm doing, I guess. So this lives behind this piece of metal, and this part exposes through this hole, and these three holes are these three for the screws. So when you're taking it out, there's a screw that you have to take out from here, and it's really hard to see from there, but there's this thing which the window runs in when the window goes up and down, and you can't get this out or in unless you take this out, so you have to take that out to put this back in. So I have to sort of do quite a lot of jiggling to get this back in place. Okay, and connecting the rods back in place, these things, is definitely a bit tricky. Okay, hopefully you can see how this works now. So this little bent end of the rod pokes inside that green thing, and then this part of the green thing comes round and snaps in. You do the reverse of that to take them off. So do that for all of these, and then you'll be right. This one up there is a little bit different. There's kind of a, but it still clips in. So do them. put this thing back in, the rail for the window, into that hole. Screw it in. This isn't meant to be on now. I was just testing it. And then try and, as long as you've got all those clips back in, which are meant to be in, then you need to plug this onto the underneath, onto that clip, which is inside here. So I think it goes that way around with the tab, the little push fit tab in this orientation. Oh, hello. Okay, just activated. Okay, I suppose it's going to work now. Good. And then try and put this thing back. This is probably here for a reason, to waterproof it or something. And this, I think, poked through there, didn't it? Like that. And then this connection connects into here. Like that. And you just have to line up all the snap fits, like this one going to that hole down there, for example. And then put all the screws back. As well as putting this back as well. That's the electric windows, that's the mirror adjuster. And it slots in with one end, that end goes in first, and then this pushes in like that. This goes in here. Pushes in. Then one screw in here. These screws. And this thing, this little triangle, just pushes back in with this little snap fit thing. And this one down there.